Everyone. I want to share with everybody a video about ETF investing primarily in Europe. The reason for this is I have been looking at a load of Reddit posts and comments about different ETFs, ex-USA, including USA, S&P, why overweight it at all, do we really believe in the USA? So we've got a chart here that looks at SPYY, which is an all-world ETF. We've got EXO, which is the Europe Stoxx 600. We've got VU, which is obviously the S&P, not equal weight. This is the standard S&P. And we've got VEU, which is all-world, excluding USA. There are many different tickers, so it doesn't really matter. I'm just comparing some baseline versions of these. We've even got different currencies here. One of these is US based, but it doesn't really matter. The point of this video is to show what happens over the long run. So let's get started. Look at the compounding annual growth rate. There is a big difference here. 7.7 over 10 years for the European stocks. That's not great when you compare it with something else, but let's look at the next one. We are all looking at comments saying let's exclude the USA, let's invest in all world excluding USA. We don't want that. Could be because of Trump. Not going to get into politics here, but let's exclude the US and invest in everything else. So what would you do? In the last 10 years, you would have had 127% gain with 8.6 CAGR. This isn't really great. I mean, think about it. You've got baseline of 2% inflation. If you look at the European CPI reports, most countries have well over 2%. So 8.6 is not that good. Not even comparing with the EU, which is 7.7%. The next one that we've got is the SPYY. This one has 10.9% growth, which is much better than the other two, obviously, as this is an all-world ETF. But again, once we compare with the VU, which is the S&P 500, so only US listed companies, we've got almost 15% growth per annum, which means 300% growth in total. Compare it with the rest. Look, 180, 110, 128, 300. That's a big outperformance. And of course, everybody is going to say, doesn't mean it's going to outperform in the next 10 years. And sure, you could be right. But no matter how far back you go, the S&P outperforms any other ETF. ETF meaning different regions or excluding or including specific regions. It doesn't really matter. The fact is that we've had the 300% growth. If we look at what would have happened if you had added 10,000 USD or euros, and this is what I meant in the beginning, we've got the S&P here listed with USD. The rest are, well, we've got, this one is the ex-USA, all world ex-USA is USD listed as well. The rest are Euro. So it doesn't really matter because currencies fluctuate. This is a topic for and it's a topic for a different video really. The fact is that USD might be down versus the Euro now, but it will always fluctuate. So over the long run, it doesn't matter. It shouldn't be something even to consider, at least with USD and EUR. Now, if you're looking at Chinese currencies, Turkish, then do you really want to bet that currency is going to be widely used and so on? So as a result of the EUR USD, I want to mention this because some of the people will say it doesn't matter because the USD has gone down this year. So this is exactly shown here because look at VU. This VU has underperformed in relative terms compared to what it has done in the past. So as a result, we've had all world excluding USA specifically non-EU, non-USA listed companies have done much, much better than SPY, which is obviously a fact with the USD going down. But that doesn't really matter, because a weaker currency means the country can export much more. So they will export more, which is why we had their recent GDP growth at around 4%, I believe. Really, really massive. So again, looking at the 10-year, 10,000, you would have had 40k in the S&P. You would have had only 20k in Europe. So over 10 years, you would have doubled your money. Which sounds cool, but think about it. With inflation, everything, the cost of living, not great. And of course, this is just a few numbers here, but let's have a look at what would happen if you added 10,000 to start with. And then we've got here on the left, we've got the Euro Stoxx 600. Scenario B would be the all world excluding USA. Scenario C is the SPYY, which is all world. And then in the last one, we've got D, which is the S&P 500. Adding $10,000, well, whatever, 10,000 to start with. We've got the compounding annual growth rate, 7.7, 8.6, 10.9, just about 15. Massive outperformance just looking at these. I mean, 11% is the highest after the S&P. That's what, 30-40% more for the S&P. I think so. But looking at the numbers, look, so over 20 years, we're looking at 20 years for all of the four. We've got 600k total value, more or less, for the Europe stocks, 660k for the all world, excluding USA, 878k for the all world. S&P, you're looking at 1.4 million. Look at that. It's almost triple. Nevertheless, look, so we've got 250k total invested for the all four funds. The gain for each is really shocking, because look, 343k for Europe stocks, 411k for the excluding USA, 628k for all world, and 1.2 million if you just invested in the US stock market. That's a massive difference. So I don't understand why are there so many comments saying let's exclude the USA. We don't want to invest. We don't like Trump. I hate Trump. He's a dictator. He's a king. This, that, and the other. It doesn't matter. He's one politician. You can like him or not. It doesn't really matter. He won't be there in 4 years. It could be Kamala that comes back and wins the elections. We don't know. Joe Biden might decide now is the time. Fine. But it doesn't really matter, because let's look at the individual companies. So if we look at the all country ETF, and this is just one ETF, there are many different ones. It doesn't really matter. They're all similar. You've got some difference in terms of the TER. So this one is 0.12%. It doesn't really matter over the long term. But look at the holdings. So the all world ETF has Nvidia, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Broadcom, Alphabet. What do you see here? These are all US companies. This one obviously is in Taiwan, but it's a monopoly. So all these companies are the best at what they do, and they are all US companies. So you've got an all world ETF where 25% of your money goes into the top 10 US companies. Well, top 9 with Taiwan Semi not being US. Well, what's the next one? Let's look at the Euro Stoxx 600. You've got ASML, a clear leader. Well, it's a monopoly again, so not a leader. It's the only company that does advanced EUV machines. So Taiwan Semi would buy these and make chips. It's not as easy as I just said, but more or less. We've got SAP, which is one of the greatest European tech companies. It's great, yeah. But 2%, and look at all the rest. We've got Nestle. And by the way, ASML don't even make that much revenue. So all the companies that we just looked at in the US, the 9 companies in the US, they make more than 100 billion per annum. ASML doesn't make anywhere near that much. Looking at Nestle, AstraZeneca, Novartis, Roche, HSBC, Shell, Siemens, LVMH. What are all these companies? Let's be honest here. These are defensive companies where they don't grow that much. They are dividend-paying companies. Again, excluding the top 2 because they are really growth companies, but valuation of these is relatively supposedly cheaper than the US counterweights. But the rest are defensive companies. You don't buy Shell because you think it's gonna grow at 15% CAGR. No, it's not. Or a bank. Never gonna happen. So, moving on to the S&P. Where are the holdings? Why do we not have these here? I should have looked at this before. But nevertheless, let's find another one. Let's go into ETF search. Oh, well, no. I don't really like this site, but I don't know if there is a better one. So S&P 500, we just want to look at the way that they are constructed, the listings more or less, which they will be the same as the all world, by the way. So yeah, look, Nvidia at 8.5, all world had it at 5 something, I think. So this is almost double. We've got Apple. I don't like Apple as a company. It's not really growing. It's not really creating anything new. I think you will agree that the iPhones have stalled. Nothing new has happened, and Type-C being implemented isn't really something genius. Microsoft, Amazon, all the same companies that we looked. So we don't have Taiwan Semi here. We have Berkshire, which is more, whether you like it or not, it's a stable compounder that you can own. But look, we've got 40% added here into the arguably the best companies in the world, whether you like it or not. But let's look at let's decide that we don't want to hold anything in the USA, because we just looked and all world it performs basically because of the US companies included in it. European, we saw that, where is it? Here. EXA, Europe has had the most pathetic growth over the last decade. It doesn't have any US companies in it, obviously. All world has 9 of the top 10 companies are US companies. So you can say that you're investing in the whole world, but you're not. You're diversifying winners with crap companies that don't even generate revenue. Most probably 20 or 30% of these companies can go bankrupt. Nobody's gonna know about it except the people that work in them, obviously. So again, let's look at the ex-USA. Well, looking at the all world with the excluded USA, it strikes as more or less the exact same thing as the Europe ETF. ASML in both. It's more or less the same thing. Look, SAP, Nestle, AstraZeneca, Novartis. The only difference that I see here, and I'm not looking in depth because I don't really care, but we don't have the LVMH, which is the luxury products in France, I believe. We've got Royal Bank of Canada here instead. So again, why? Why would you want to do this? Is the idea to diversify away from the USA because we don't like Trump? Or do we believe that Nvidia will suddenly stop making the best semiconductors? Well, designing the best semiconductors. Is Apple suddenly, even though they've not innovated, is there a more secure device with the most stable performance that you can buy that will even retain some of its value in a few years? Are companies going to use something else other than Microsoft? You can look at posts saying that Linux is much better, but who uses Linux? Let's be honest, you don't want to use Linux at home. It's crap. Amazon, is somebody going to make a better worldwide marketplace on Amazon or their cloud segment that's growing really massively. No. Broadcom, everything that Nvidia doesn't, that any chip that isn't made by Nvidia or AMD, by the way, is basically made by Broadcom. And by made, I mean designed. Alphabet, who uses something else other than Google to search for things? Nobody does that. And then you've got a load of other services and products that Alphabet has in order to generate cash flow. Meta platforms, yeah, we all hate Facebook. We all do not like Instagram and Threads and all that good stuff. But they make so much money from advertisements on these platforms. It's just not true. And the calls of people in Europe, saying we should have our own social network. Who is going to make this social network? You can't just have Europe, Ursula, decide we're going to have our own Facebook and have it made. It doesn't work that way. Tesla, what do we think about Tesla? Sure, the growth isn't there anymore, but what is BMW going to suddenly make a better EV car than them? Have you looked at the price of BMWs or Mercs or anything really? You pay so much more for what you get instead of just buying a Tesla. Not to even mention, and I'm not a fan of, I don't like Tesla, I don't like EVs at all. But these are companies that nobody will outperform. Not so unless the technology changes. So the Nvidia makes the best GPUs. Nobody will ever make better GPUs. The only company that will outperform Nvidia in these things is a company that does something else entirely. It will be a new technology. You can say it will be quantum, fine, for the sake of the conversation, but it won't be another chip company. Taiwan Semiconductors, we cannot make I've seen posts, let's make chips in Europe. Why are we not making computers in Europe? We should make our own RAM. No, it doesn't work that way. You cannot just build a fab of Taiwan you can't just copy paste it and build it anywhere you want in the world. If you could, it would be available everywhere in the world. Even China cannot recreate the same success as ASML as well, not just Taiwan. So it's not about me being negative about EU versus Japan or Korea or USA. I mean, the whole point of investing is to make money. It's not about anything else. It's not about odd things. There are some really odd things here. Look at this. Islamic investing, millennial ETFs. This is all shit. You don't want to be in anything that doesn't grow. Gender equality. What is this supposed to be? Let's have a look. What is in this? Let's look at the so-called best gender equality ETFs. What is here? It must be top stocks again. Okay, we've got Illumina, which I don't know what this one is really. General Motors. So how is General Motors about gender equality? Really? It doesn't make any sense. Hologic, no idea what that is. GSK, they make toothpaste and whatnot. But how does gender play into this? Ford, fine. It doesn't really matter again. There is a lot of crap. You have to understand that UBS and all the other banks and investment companies, they earn this much from all your funds you invest in them. So they want to make this interesting. If you're interested in equality of genders, you might think it's cool to invest in it, but you are not investing in anything that will help make gender equality a thing. It doesn't work that way. You're just paying 0.23% per annum to underperform the market. Look at this. 5 years, 56%. It's horrific. It's really horrific. So I'm going to put an end to this now. We should all be interested in making more money. It's not about politics. It's not about disliking or liking somebody. It's about earning a better return on your capital. So this is why I created this. It also depends on the risk, but risk is another thing which I could create. I will probably create a video on this because it is it's really confusing, the things that people write about it. So if you invest in Nasdaq, then you're really in it for the AI bubble when it pops. But that's what. So the 2026 predictions are American AI bubble pops and Europe wins the AI race. Really, what's next? That Tesla goes bankrupt and Skoda, they become the first European trillion euro company, and USD will crash, and the euro will become the number one currency in the world. That's living in cuckoo land. Investors shouldn't be about that. We should be investing in quality, not for the sake of diversification, because you just saw diversifying means you earn less. It's not more. Sure, the volatility might be less, but look at it. Is it really? You've had big drawdowns on everything, so it's not about that. And sure, the USA might be more volatile, but we make money from volatility. It's not about going straight up, because if you add some funds, that example that I showed with the total sum after 20 years, that means that you invest every month or week, however you want to do it. But that means that even when the market crashes, you buy when it's crashing. So that's still better than just having a lump sum investment and into something that doesn't even grow, such as there are some dividend ETFs that they have a 5% annual return, which is pretty low, and sure, they pay 4 or 5% dividend, not all the time, but it's still something. But you don't earn anything from that. So you get the dividend, half of the growth is dividends, and you pay tax on that. Well, it's taken from you before you even receive it, but it doesn't grow. So why are you doing this? Don't do that. Invest in quality. Don't think that diversification is a hedge against risk. It's not. A diversification is a hedge against money. You earn less when you diversify. So something like the S&P, there shouldn't be any comments that let me pull out of S&P. I don't believe in them. Don't look at it like that. Look at the companies. Find alternatives. Is there somebody else that can do something better? No, there isn't. Take care and keep safe.